The board meeting will begin in 5 minutes. The August 7th State Board meeting will now come to order. Good morning and welcome to the August 7th, 2026 State Board of Education meeting. Board members, please engage your microphones before speaking and turn them off when you're finished speaking. Please note that board members may be using their cell phones and laptop computers to access the agenda and information related to this meeting. Live streaming is available through the State Board of Education website. Would the recording secretary please call the roll?
Kristen Christensen.
Here.
Maggie Douglas.
Here.
Lisa Schoenhoff.
Here.
Liz Renner.
Here.
Kirk Penner.
Here.
Sherry Jones.
Here.
Elizabeth Tegmeyer.
Here.
Deborah Neary.
Here.
Commissioner Maher.
Here.
7 present, 1 absent.
Quorum is established. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Information regarding the Open Meetings Act is posted as you enter the room from the main entrance doors. The Open Meetings Act is also posted on the State Board of Education's website. NDE staff member David Jesperson, please make your way to the front of the room for a brief introduction of Sarah Hardin, 2026 Nebraska Teacher of the Year, a high school science teacher from Mullen High in Mullen, Nebraska.
Good morning, everyone. David Jesperson, Administrator of the Office of Public Information and Communications. And it is really hard to believe, but this time last year, we wrapped up the search for the 2026 Teacher of the Year, and Sarah Hardin came and visited us this month, I think it was, or maybe it was the beginning of September, to do her interviews and be named the 2026 Teacher of the Year. Since then, she's gone from NDE Day to other speaking engagements, and just recently on her way to the moon. So I'll let her explain that. Here's the 2026 Teacher of the Year, Sarah Hardin.
Good morning, and good to see everybody again. To the moon is very generous, but I learned specifically I could never do the spinning, so I will not be an astronaut. So thank you very much. I realize you have a very big day today, so I'm going to maybe go a little bit quicker than I have in the past. It's been a very busy year, and as soon as I was done with my track coaching duties at State Track and with school, I jumped right back into several different roles. So these were my goals I shared the last time I was here, and I think I have continued to expand on each of those goals, supporting hands-on learning, making students and teachers alike feel relevant and noticed in our schools across Nebraska, broadening the path into teaching, which is definitely one of my passions and I continue to work on, and representing Nebraska nationally. I started, my pictures are not gonna load here, we'll see. I started the summer with the NDE Future Ready Conference and discussed with teachers there all the things that I'm doing in my classroom to incorporate technology into a hands-on learning classroom, which is a big challenge right now to balance screen time with hands-on learning. And so that was how I started the summer and enjoyed speaking with fellow educators there. Oh, it's definitely not going to load. Sorry about that. These are some great pictures of a trip that I took with my high school students to Alaska this summer, which I mentioned to you was a new science field trip that I took this year. And of course, those kids always keep me grounded. It was an incredible trip to continue to expand and bringing those experiences to my kids in tiny little Mullen, Nebraska was incredible. And now I'm trying to decide if we will continue this trip or we will go back to Florida, which is where we have gone historically for our science field trips. But just an incredible experience with some really great kids that are also really beautiful, if you could see the pictures. So none of them are going to load. Sorry, I'm so sorry. So Space Camp, I returned from Space Camp just a couple weeks ago in Huntsville, Alabama, which truthfully has been a dream of my nerdy 12-year-old self. And it was an incredible week. I definitely brought back a lot of really fun STEM activities to do in my classroom, but more importantly, the experiences of leadership training and spending time with the cohort of those teachers from every other state. There were 50 out of the 56 of us from all U.S. states and territories present. And that piece was certainly the most important piece. As fun as all of the simulators, everything was, that component was most important to me. And so I wanted to talk, beautiful. I wanted to talk a little bit more about that. As I sat through the week and really thought about this role and what my goals are in this position this year, those conversations that you have with those teachers in this position from those other states is really, really powerful. And so I kind of made a list throughout the week of some of the conversations we were just having as we were in between sessions or working on a project. And these were some of the things that came up, these really, really big, big ideas and these challenges that every state and every school is having to think about right now. So certainly AI in education has been a huge topic of conversation. A lot of policies being developed in states and at district level. Cell phones, the same thing. That has kind of rejuvenated with a lot of schools and districts and even state level discussion on banning cell phones completely and how that will impact teachers and students, good and bad. And it was just really, really great and powerful to hear perspectives from those teachers. Student and staff mental health was discussed several times, and the things that we're doing to try to work on that in a day of social media, that is definitely top of the list for a lot of schools still. And one of the, I think, things that has been on the radar for a long time as well is teacher recruitment and retention. We talk a lot about recruitment, but in those conversations, we also talk about retention and how do we keep people in education. And so I think that definitely ties into a lot of the discussions I've been having around the state this year with all levels. School culture and belonging is another passion of mine that we discussed, and also then bringing my rural perspective to places like Prince, who's the New York State from New York City Teacher of the Year. So it's really interesting to have those conversations with individuals like that. And I really do think that that is the most important component of this role, is to be able to then bring some of those perspectives back to Nebraska and have those discussions. So thank you for that opportunity. That was an incredible experience once again. And I look forward to spending another week with them very soon. Just last week I presented at Nebraska Administrator Days for NDE, and that was very interesting because in that process of having those discussions with teachers from other states, I did a survey where I talked about what are some of those important things that keep you in education, and what were the important things as a new teacher to you that made you want to stay. And so I presented that last week and shared those conversations with the leaders across Nebraska. I shared this slide also last time, and I maintained it because this has still been a conversation no matter where I go, no matter what teachers I talk to, is that people tend to stay where they feel connected with other people. And so I thought that was important to leave. And to wrap it up somewhat quickly for you today, so you can move on. I'm really looking forward to a really busy fall. I will go to Washington, D.C. with my cohort and spend a week there. Looking forward to more of those conversations, not just with the cohort, but also with policymakers for Nebraska and beyond. I have several initiatives that I'm going to help with the Grow Your Own, and then Educators Rising. At Doane University, I'll be talking to kids that are thinking about education, so I'm really excited about that. I am working with Nebraska Wesleyan, NASA Nebraska Space Grant people, and Lindsay Wilson, that you might recognize as last year's Teacher of the Year, on a statewide and potentially nationwide day to celebrate Voyager's distance from Earth. So I'm really excited about that. And I've also been asked to help in a kind of a grassroots program of mentoring beginning teachers. So a lot of things that I have going on this fall, but I'm really excited to continue that work and continue to hopefully represent Nebraska educators well. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Sarah, for coming. Board members, any questions or comments? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Have a safe drive back home, but enjoy Lincoln before you go.
Yes, thank you.
Yes. Okay, item 2.2, Susan Stake, President of the Nebraska Council on Teacher Education. Please join us at the front of the room for a special presentation.
See if this comes up. Right. Well, good morning. Good morning. Oh, there we go. All right, hi. Good morning, President Tegmeyer, board members, and Dr. Maher, and Nebraska Department of Education staff. Thank you for the opportunity to present the Nebraska Council on Teacher Education, our annual report. My name is Susan Stake, and I serve as president of the council. Today, I'd like to briefly go through my slideshow here, and let me see if I can get this going. This is our executive committee for the 2026-27 year. We recently had elections for our committee chairs, so this will be the group serving as the executive group this coming year. The Nebraska Council on Teacher Education serves as a state board advisory body on educator preparation and certification. One of our greatest strengths is diversity. So we have representatives from higher education, classroom teachers, school leadership, school boards, educational service units, and the Nebraska Department of Education. All right, a significant portion of our council work this year focused on reviewing Rules 20, 24, and 27. We had updates on Rules 10 and 21. For Rule 20, to highlight, we are focusing on the educator preparation program approval. We've had council representatives participate in discussions regarding revisions to the approval process. The goal, to clarify expectations, strengthen consistency, and improve communication between preparation programs and the Department of Education. The council also reviewed endorsement recommendations and again, to ensure preparation requirements remain current, responsive, and aligned with Nebraska workforce needs. In addition, the council is participating in discussions on Rule 27, which establishes Nebraska professional practice criteria and supporting ethical expectations for educators. So those were endorsements. The council continued strengthening Nebraska's educator preparation system through statewide initiatives focused on quality and continuous improvement. One important area of work was the refinement of the clinical practice assessment. This assessment provides consistent expectation for teacher candidates during clinical practice and helps ensure candidates demonstrate knowledge, instructional skills, and professionalism that's expected of beginning teachers. The council also reviewed Nebraska's first-year and third-year teacher and principal surveys. These surveys provide valuable feedback from beginning educators and school leaders about how effectively the program preparation prepares graduates for classroom and leadership responsibilities. The council also received updates on legislative studies that have the potential to impact Nebraska's educator workforce. These included Legislative Resolution 144, which examined teacher apprenticeship pathways, 202, which studied Nebraska's educator preparation programs and workforce needs, 204, which focused on recruitment and retention. The council's role many times is to, as discussion groups, and to provide their expertise, informed perspectives that may help with changes. All right, the next area is one of our, intentionally this year, we were aligning our work with the department's strategic plan. So supporting, accelerating student achievement, strengthening educator preparation, and supporting evidence-based instructional practices. Also growing the educator pipeline. These were discussions related to certification pathways, preparation quality, and again, recruitment, retention. And then equipping our learners for the workforce. We would like to help ensure Nebraska prepares highly qualified educators who are ready to meet the needs of schools across the state. In addition to our policy work, the council also continued on strengthening its own organizational governance by updating procedural or operational procedures and reviewing our membership representation. These improvements help ensure that the council remains a strong advisory group to the state board. And then in closing, the council remains committed to supporting high-quality education preparation, strengthening certification pathways, promoting continuous improvement, and addressing the educator workforce needs. We appreciate the board's continued partnership and the opportunity to serve as your advisory council. Thank you for your support of Nebraska's educator preparation system and your commitment to ensuring every Nebraska student has access to highly effective educators. Thank you for your time this morning. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions, board members? All right. Okay, thank you, Susan.
Thank you.
Okay, the next item of business is the Commissioner's report. Commissioner Maher, please provide your report.
Thank you, President Tegmeyer. First of all, there are no items that have been identified to be removed from the consent agenda. If board members wish to have items removed from the consent agenda, please fill out the form at this time. Just a reminder, any items that are removed from the consent agenda will be taken up under additional business. A few other comments to make this morning. First of all, good morning, everybody. Welcome. Thanks for being here. And welcome to those of you in the audience and those listening online. It's truly hard to believe that here we are nearing the start of another school year. I'm sure each of us can remember the excitement and the nervousness and the anticipation of the new year as we were all students ourselves, but also as parents, and for some of us as educators, we remember that excitement and anticipation. For everyone, I wish you a safe, fun, and a great year. It's been a busy couple of months for us at the Department of Ed. Even though we did not have a July board meeting, our agency has been quite busy with several key events and projects. I'll highlight a couple of those. First of all, we were glad to spend some time with state board members, legislators and their staff, and higher education officials, local school board members, and other policymakers from across the nation at the Education Commission of the State's National Policy Forum in Washington, D.C. We heard from colleagues in other states. We heard about the good work that they're doing, and we were able to share some of the good work and some of the challenges that we have as we approach really largely the same issues across this nation. We valued the opportunity for the state and the time to collaborate and share our learnings and look forward to continued opportunities to get and to share great ideas that help improve our students' education in the state. Last week, we wrapped up an extremely productive Administrator Days. I know that's a biased opinion that I have, but that I'm sticking to it. I heard from several in attendance that our theme, Nebraska Leads Literacy, Driving Success, and especially our keynote, Rebecca Kokler, really landed with the crowd that was there. I was glad to be able to share more about our strategic plan with the more than 1,500 people in attendance. I want to thank our staff for crafting more than 40 sessions, several information tables and booths, and workrooms where we could model our fourth strategic priority, which is to provide exceptional service. And as you've heard me say several times, that's a journey. That's not a destination. I love where we're headed. We haven't arrived. Also, a big shout out to David Jesperson, who's not in the room to hear this, so please tell him if you see him that he got a shout out. And the entire Department of there he is, and the entire Department of Education Communications Department. Thanks for all of your work. We know Administrator Days doesn't just happen, so thanks to you. Also, thanks to the partnership that we have with the Nebraska Council of Administrators to help that event take place for really everybody across the state of Nebraska. So thank you, David. You can go back and do whatever you were doing. Earlier this week, I was able to kick off the annual Teacher Education Forum. I know there's a few people in attendance here today who were also there Monday. Thanks for your attendance at both meetings. That conference was designed for educator preparation program staff to gather and hear from the Department of Education on our priorities and to provide key input for initiatives that we have going on in the department. The day was really designed around our first three strategic priorities, and I enjoyed seeing the over 50 teacher educators engage in discussions on how they contribute to and support our progress towards these goals. When you think of the time we spent developing the strategic plan, and you think of the time that we have spent implementing it, number one, I love today that NCTE highlighted the strategic plan. Thank you, Susan, and your group. But also to have 1,500 in attendance last week, get some highlights on what our strategic plan is, and Monday to reinforce that with our educator preparation program. I think we are saturating the at least the education portion of the state of Nebraska with what our plans are. And I think that will help us in terms of reaching our goals. So we definitely have had a number of opportunities to support progress towards those goals. A couple of final things. Number one, in this room on Tuesday afternoon, we had the second meeting of the year, the second quarter meeting of the year for the School Financing Review Commission. The School Financing Review Commission, you may remember, is about a year and a half old, about a year's worth of meetings on an initiative that was brought forth by the state legislature to have us look at a number of things in terms of school financing across the state of Nebraska. I think we're gaining ground. I think there's a lot of momentum going forward. The work that is being done for the commission is largely being done in two separate groups. One, my time's up here. One being the needs side of the formula, the other being the resources side of the formula. And we're beginning to get some really good quality and debatable recommendations that'll be interesting to see what we actually bring forward in November for the legislature to consider. It'll be hard for our group to come to consensus, but I think the topics that we have are meaty, and hopefully we can get something meaningful to the legislature this year. And finally, we have a lot of people at the Department of Education. We have a lot of good people at the Department of Education, and we have a lot of turnover at the Department of Education. And it is rare that I mention to you anything about that turnover. But one of those pieces to the human resources puzzle at the Department of Education, I believe deserves a shout out. Lane Carr, who I don't think is in this room, nonetheless, I want to say thank you to him and to everybody who has left recently, but really give Lane a shout out. Lane does more behind the scenes than hardly anybody understands, including the commissioner, including helping me prepare the monthly commissioner's report. So the report's either going to get longer or shorter, whether you like it or don't like it. You're going to be able to blame it on Lane Carr in his absence. But Lane, I think, will be able to help us with our work at the department as he transitions into a new and excellent job. We will miss him dearly, and I just thought it important to give him a shout out. That concludes my report.
Thank you, Commissioner. Typically, we don't even have a president's report, and I told you guys last night we weren't going to have one. But I do want to acknowledge the work that our department put into in events just like NDE Days. We had, actually, we had a majority of our board able to attend and observe the work of the department in supporting students, teachers, and administrators for success. And that's just one of many conferences that our department either puts on or takes a part of in a big role. And so I just want to thank you. It's always a pleasure for us as board members to see what you're working on and get to watch firsthand. So thank you to the Department of Education. And that concludes my president's report. So, all right, we'll now move to the public comment period. This period may be available to any person who wishes to address the board on any matter that is on the agenda or within the board's authority to act. Up to 90 minutes will be allowed for public comment period. A majority of members present and voting may take action to extend the total amount of time allowed for the public comment period. A majority of members present and voting may also take action to allow or terminate public comment at any time during a meeting. If you are not signed in and wish to speak, please sign in at this time. Those wishing to speak must be signed in at the table outside the meeting room. Each individual speaking to the board will be required to complete a sign-in card for identification of oneself. Individuals are required to include on the sign-in card their name, address, name of any organization represented, and agenda item or topic that is within the board's authority to act. Individuals may be prohibited to speak in public comment if the sign-in card does not include the required information. Persons speaking to the board during public comment should state their name, city, and state at the beginning of their allotted time and may submit printed materials for the board but may not use any other form of media. Anyone refusing to be identified will be prohibited from speaking. Each person may address the board for up to 5 minutes. A majority of members present and voting may take action to reduce or extend the amount of individual time allotted to all speakers. If at any time persons appearing before the board exceed the time limitations set forth in this policy or on the agenda, or become abusive or threatening in language or behavior, it shall be the responsibility of the president to refuse permission to continue to address the board. We have 3 public comment cards submitted. Vice President Renner will announce the names of the speakers.
Okay. We have 3 speakers, and the first person up is Hope Hibbler, and then after Hope will be Brooke Crum. Good morning. My name is Hope Hibbler, and I am from Plattsmouth, Nebraska. I have been an educator in Nebraska for 20 years, and 15 of those years have been teaching social studies. I've taught in urban districts while raising my children in rural communities. I hold 3 degrees from Nebraska's colleges, including an American Historical Studies from Nebraska Wesleyan and Curriculum and Instruction from Peru State College. I've had the privilege of serving on the 2019 Nebraska Social Studies Standards Writing Committee. I tell you those things not to impress you, but to help you understand that as both a parent and an educator, I care deeply about what you're considering for these social studies standards. If you had asked me several weeks ago why I planned to speak today, my message would have been very different. I was deeply concerned about these proposed standards. My initial evaluation led me to believe they represented a significant departure from the work that we had done in 2019. I worried that important perspectives had been lost, that examples about marginalized and underrepresented groups had been removed without explanation, and that teachers would be left with less clarity than before. I was concerned that students would not be able to see themselves in the state of Nebraska's vision for a future that would include them. The more I thought about my position, the more the complicated truth became. I had done what I tell my students not to do. I had stopped looking at the evidence once I found exactly what I was looking for. Furthermore, a wise board member once said that if you're going to come to speak about the issues, be sure that you come with solutions. I had lots of issues, not a lot of solutions. So I went back to the standards, the revisions, looked at them line by line, combed through them, asked the State Department for clarification. And the conclusion that I came to was that while these are not perfect, these standards have largely withstood the political polarization surrounding this particular content area. So why am I here? Well, it dawned on me that I had a responsibility to explain the purpose and remind us of the purpose of these standards. They are a public statement of what Nebraska values in the education of its children. They reflect what Nebraska believes is important for its students to know and understand as they prepare to participate thoughtfully in an increasingly interconnected world. They are a commitment to our teachers, administrators, and our community, a commitment that Nebraska trusts local entities with the task of educating future voters, civic leaders, and responsible everyday citizens to lead the nation for posterity. Most importantly, they hold the state accountable to ensure that resources and training are available to teachers for implementation in their classrooms. Standards alone are not enough. Their success depends on whether teachers are equipped to implement them well. I recognize this board has been asked to make difficult budget decisions. That has become the reason today why I stand. I urge you to make implementation a priority by filling the vacant social studies education specialist position and ensuring that teachers have access to high-quality implementation guides, professionally vetted instructional resources, and meaningful professional learning throughout the life of these standards. Communities from Omaha to McPherson County schools, they should have equal access to training that moves beyond what to teach, but how to teach complex histories in a way that provide a safe environment for open and valued civil discourse. I believe that everyone involved in this process wants all Nebraska students to receive an excellent education. And no matter what standards this board adopts, our educators need the support system and confidence that when they use the standards to teach professionally, thoughtfully, and in good faith, the state of Nebraska will stand behind them. Thank you.
Next up is Brooke Crum, and then Dernisha Phillips.
Good morning. I do have copies of my testimony if the recording secretary would like them, or if anybody would like a copy. Dear State Board of Education members, my name is Brooke Crum, and I am the Communications and Outreach Specialist at Stand for Schools, a nonprofit organization dedicated to advancing public education in Nebraska. I'm here today to share our opposition to the proposed changes to Nebraska's social studies standards. Current Nebraska social studies standards highlight the importance of understanding different points of view and provide examples to emphasize this. Such examples help guide classroom instruction, providing support to teachers as they interpret the standards and build lessons. The proposed changes would effectively undo those implemented in 2019, which is not only regressive, but endangers high-quality education or instruction and risks students' academic achievement. Social studies standards that center critical thinking support students in creating a solid educational background, including a strong vocabulary and knowledge base, helping to support students' reading comprehension. This cannot be achieved by weakening standards and eliminating expectations for students to consider different cultural perspectives or avoiding discussions about equality. Additionally, the National Council for the Social Studies states that a comprehensive social studies education serves as, quote, the foundation for an appreciation of democracy and fosters civic engagement, quote, necessary for a well-functioning democratic society. The consequence of passing the proposed standards includes eliminating the emphasis on conversations around freedom of speech, voting, staying informed of issues, respecting the rights, opinions, and beliefs of others, and undoing the expectation that students apply knowledge to, quote, address meaningful issues within our society. The standards meant to foster understanding of democratic principles allow students to see themselves in the context of society and instill in them curiosity to learn more about how these principles show up in their communities, would only be watered down if the proposed standards were to be passed. For these reasons, Stand for Schools respectfully urges the State Board of Education to vote down the proposed standards, maintaining the standards approved in 2019. Thank you for your time.
And our final public commenter is Jernisha Phillips. Please come to the podium.
Good morning. Thank you, President Tenmeyer, members of the board, and the NDE staff members that are here today. My name is Dr. Jernisha Phillips. I'm a resident of Omaha, Nebraska, and I'm also a 21-year educator who has proudly served our children across the public school system in Nebraska as a classroom teacher, an instructional coach, a building principal. I'm also an adjunct instructor at the University of Nebraska at Omaha. I love teaching school community relations. It's such an important piece of what we do in education. I'm an educator also that has worked within the non-public school system over that 21-year tenure. I stand before you today also as the daughter of Air Force veterans, Derek Allen Lark, my late father, Valerie Pleasant, my mother, and then my stepfather, Army veteran, Russell Pleasant. I grew up in a military community, and any claim of anti-Americanism has nothing to do with me. I wanted to come here because I want you to not look for something, as someone said before, and then stop there and then say, oh, we found something. I want you to see me, the person behind the words on a website that got misinterpreted. I want you to understand that when I went to Beals Elementary School and taught there for 8 years, and I realized that when I would talk about the military and students would look at me with big eyes and say, what? And I was like, y'all don't know about this? So we partnered with the VA. We did service learning with the veterans there. We had the military come out and play taps so the kids could hear. We started civic engagement there. There was flag folding that our security officer, who had been a veteran for many years, he led them and showed them marching and all of that. And they're like, oh, that's what this means. I want you to understand that that's always been integrated in what I do as an educator. I'm not reading my comments. I will. Okay. Growing up in a military community, the concepts of civic responsibility, discipline, and historical awareness have anchored my entire life and career, and I have consistently woven those values into my educational practice, whether that meant collaborating with a VA hospital, like I said, or establishing those student groups that I mentioned. Our team at Identity Prep is carrying those precise civic accountability and discipline into our current school. It's important. It's an important piece of education. If you look also on the website, it's one of our pillars, is civic engagement. We've had the opportunity to work with girls already at Identity Prep and discuss civic leadership and engagement, and we visited the mayor's office and have talked with members of the legislature, and the girls are excited about what that could be and that they could have a future in those avenues as well. We are excited to partner this year with some civic groups and especially look into that new kid governor thing that we keep hearing about. So it is a part of what we are doing. I'm speaking today to ensure the board hears directly from me regarding the exact reality of the teaching framework that we're utilizing at Identity Preparatory Academy. And my goal is to ensure that you have entirely accurate and firsthand information as you cast your vote regarding our approval for non-public status today. Identity Prep was born directly from a collaborative partnership with families in North Omaha. And for too long, the families in our neighborhood have watched the children face persistently low achieving outcomes. We can look directly at the latest state performance metrics for our local neighborhood schools. So like at King Science, only 38% of the students met proficiency in language arts, while math proficiency dropped to 20%. Conestoga, which is very close to where we'll be, sits starkly at 17% for English and baseline of 10% for mathematic proficiency. And the list goes on. This is not because people aren't working hard, but that there are opportunities for different ways of doing things. So we decided as a community to do something different. And so I want to directly clarify our structural educational framework. In our initial design phase, our website utilized exploratory language like liberatory and abolitionist to express our desire to build joyful, secure learning spaces that practically interrupted those negative pipelines. However, through our ongoing collaborative journey alongside North Omaha families, that structure evolved and changed. And now we fully adopt an appreciative approach that's deeply rooted in David Cooper Ryder's model of appreciative inquiry. That means our working framework is strictly focused on discovering and appreciating what is already working in education beautifully within our community and strategically adding on to it to push academic depth. I thank you for hearing my comments today and hope that you will consider them as you are thinking about our approval status. Thank you.
That concludes our public comment.
Thank you. Is there a motion to adopt the consent agenda?
Yes, I move to adopt the consent agenda. Second.
It is moved and seconded to adopt the consent agenda. Per board policy, there is no discussion on the motion to adopt the consent agenda. Would the recording secretary please call the roll?
Renner,
Yes.
Douglas,
Yes.
Christensen,
Yes.
Jones,
Yes.
Tegmeyer,
Yes.
Penner,
Yes.
Neary,
Yes.
Schoenhoff,
Yes.
8 yes.
The affirmative has it, and the consent agenda is adopted. The next item of business are reports of the standing committees. I will report on behalf of the Executive Committee meeting. The Executive Committee reports on its August 6, 2026 meeting. Members present were Chair Elizabeth Tegmeyer, Vice Chair Liz Renner, Sherry Jones, and Deborah Neary. To begin with, the committee reviewed one discussion item. The committee received an update on the status of the current legislative priorities. NDE staff provided a revised draft of legislative priorities for the 2025-2027 biennium. Then the committee reviewed 4 information items. First, the committee reviewed the notice of vacancy on the State Committee for the reorganization of school districts. Second, the committee received information on a potential revision to NDE's agency management policies. Third, the committee reviewed the recommendation of appointments to the Special Education Advisory Council. This item appeared on the consent agenda for approval. Finally, the committee reviewed the recommendation on filling vacancies on the Nebraska Council on Teacher Education. This item also appeared on the consent agenda for approval. This concludes the Executive Committee report. Elizabeth Tegmeyer, Chair. Are there any questions on the Executive Committee report? Seeing none, agenda item 7.1A. This is the approval of legislative priorities. This is a discussion item. Are there any questions or discussion on the legislative priorities? I would say that during our meeting, I will just add some context for those who aren't part of that committee. We really positively affirmed what was written and proposed by the staff for legislative priorities. We had a few questions, and they elaborated and explained. So we feel, I think, overall, we felt confident moving this to a discussion. Looking forward to approving these as an action item next month. So if you have any additional questions or you want to add anything, Grant would be the person now that you would email about that. Okay. Chair Christian Christensen will report on behalf of the Budget and Finance Committee meeting.
The Budget and Finance Committee reports that at its Thursday, August 6th meeting, members present were Kristen Christensen, Kirk Penner, Maggie Douglas, and Lisa Schoenhoff. The committee reviewed 2 action items, including a contract for required compliance and monitoring of USDA food nutrition programs and the acceptance of the 2025 single audit report. The committee recommended approval of both items. The committee then reviewed 5 discussion items, which included board member travel expenses, contracts for the 2026-27 Career Connections statewide license and the Comprehensive English Language Proficiency Assessment, an update on possible grant opportunities which were identified and brought to the committee in June, and an overview of the biennial budget requests. Last, the committee reviewed 5 information items, including potential new strategic grant opportunities, subawards to carry out the federal IDEA Part D SPDG grant activities, an update on the CLSD grant expenditures, the 2026-27 deficit budget request submission, and a mental health training grant. This concludes the Budget and Finance report. Kristen Christensen, Chair.
Are there any questions on the Budget and Finance Committee report? Thanks to the Budget Committee, you always go through a lot every month. Are there any questions on the reports in item 7.2.A? Okay. Is there a motion on item 7.2.B?
Yes, I move to authorize the Commissioner to contract for required compliance and monitoring of the USDA child nutrition programs.
Second.
It is moved and seconded to authorize the Commissioner to contract for required compliance and monitoring of the USDA child nutrition programs. Is there any discussion on the motion? I have a couple questions I think maybe committee members might be able to answer. First of all, I wondered, how long is the contract? Did I miss that in the rationale? Does anyone, I mean, if you don't know, we can get a staff person up here who would know right off the top of their head.
Yes, I do know.
Okay.
It's a 1-year contract with up to 4 renewals.
Okay. And then do you know if this contract is an increase or decrease on the previous one?
That part I don't know.
Okay, can we get a staff member?
Is Katie in them? Zainab, would you please,
Oh.
Dr. Rita, would you please come answer that?
Good morning, Zainab Rida, Student Services Officer.
So my question was, is this an increase on the previous contract, the amount? I mean, because it's almost 500,000, so.
Yeah, it's because increased services as well.
Okay.
So increased services, increase more schools to provide the technical assistance and to provide the monitoring as well.
Okay, and can you just briefly tell me what those monitoring visits are like?
Absolutely. So for the school, in all the schools, in order to receive school lunch meals, so we receive funds from USDA, Department of Agriculture, and in order to receive, so we have 3 categories: free versus reduced or full price, and so we want to make sure that they're in compliance with the USDA requirement. That's include the number of students that they receive the services or the meals, include that the nutrition requirement and another component that's required by the USDA.
Okay, thank you.
Absolutely.
The rationale didn't have all of my questions, so thank you.
Absolutely.
Any other questions on this item? Okay, thank you, Dr. Rita. The motion is to authorize the commissioner to contract for required compliance and monitoring of the USDA child nutrition programs. Would the recording secretary please call the roll?
Tegmeyer,
Yes.
Neary,
Yes.
Penner,
Yes.
Christensen,
Yes.
Renner,
Yes.
Jones,
Yes.
Schoenhoff,
Yes.
Douglas,
Yes.
8 yes.
The affirmative has it, and the motion to authorize the commissioner to contract for required compliance and monitoring of the USDA child nutrition program is adopted. Is there a motion on item 7.2.c?
Yes, I move to accept the 2025 single audit report.
Second.
It is moved and seconded to accept the 2025 single audit report. Is there any discussion on the motion? Once again, I have questions, this time for Bryce Wilson.
Good morning.
Good morning. Okay, so the auditor's office noted multiple areas where monitoring should have occurred but didn't. Can you explain what is being done to correct this, as it was noted multiple times within the document that it is NDE's responsibility to check compliance and audit our recipients? So how will
Yeah.
you be doing that going forward?
Sure. So we actually have a new person in charge of the fiscal monitoring team that I'm very excited about, and has a great plan in place to work on getting caught up on that. It's a culmination of, it's a three-member team to do the fiscal monitoring for all 244 school districts across the state. And we've had turnover of all 3 positions within the last year. And prior to that, I don't think we've had anybody in there for more than 2 years, except for the one that was leading it prior to this last year. So we've been vacant in most of those positions and just trying to keep up as well as we can. 2 of those positions are filled, the new leader, the other position, we have 1 position open right now, but very, very confident in what we have the plan going forward to get those fiscal monitoring visits caught up, so.
All right, thank you. I know it's hard when you have holes in your staff, so thank you for your hard work. I just wanted to make sure that we can correct those
Yep,
moving forward. So
we are
thank
working to
you.
make sure that happens.
And thank your staff.
Absolutely.
No small job.
Yep.
Any other questions or comments? Thank you, Bryce. The motion is to accept the 2025 single audit report. Would the recording secretary please call the roll?
Schoenhoff,
Yes.
Neary,
Yes.
Christensen,
Yes.
Renner,
Yes.
Jones,
Yes.
Douglas,
Yes.
Penner,
Yes.
Tegmeyer,
Yes.
8 yes.
The affirmative has it, and the motion to accept the 2025 single audit report is adopted. Agenda item 7.2.d, contract for Nebraska Career Connections 2026-2027 statewide license. Board members, are there any questions or discussion on this item? This is a discussion item. Kind of becoming a theme. I had another question on this one. Committee members, do you know how this information is going to be shared about the careers connections with our different schools, including it says that it is for public schools, private schools, and homeschools. So I'm curious how people know about this.
Can we ask Dr. Katie Graham?
We can ask Dr. Katie Graham.
Good morning, Katie Graham, Administrator for the Office of Career Technical and Adult Education. Great question. We try to spread the word in a number of different areas as recently as Administrators Days. We also have a website, and we include it in almost every communication we can through different listservs, through presentations. We have common resources that all of our content specialists, as they go out and share at all of their respective professional organizations, work with schools, we're all sharing the same message. That includes non-public entities that we're also sharing it with. Homeschools can also leverage it. We also share it with partners to make sure, for instance, we work with the Army National Guard, we work with Junior Achievement, we work with other organizations that are also working with young people, and so we make sure they're also aware of the statewide license so they can also share and communicate with their partners that it's available to them.
Wonderful. I love that. I just wanted to make sure that if we're going to have these great things, I want to make sure the news is getting out. So thank you for
Yes.
taking a minute to explain
Yes,
that.
absolutely.
Any other questions while Dr. Graham is up here? Sherry?
This is not a question for you, but I did want the public to note, I don't know how much the public sees of this, but there were 3 things that were listed in the rationale that I thought was very interesting and encouraging, and that is that 106,000 student log in annually to this. There's over 130,000 assessments completed in the last 3 years, and approximately 230 school districts are currently using the platform. So I believe that attested to the usability and the interest in this, so thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Graham, and your staff for all your hard work. Just got a text that someone would like a break. We've got 3 more discussion items in budget and finance, so hang in there, board. We're about there. 7.2.E, approve comprehensive English language proficiency assessment process. This is a discussion item. Board members, are there any questions or discussion on this item? Okay. 7.2.F, approve strategic initiatives grant opportunities. This is a discussion. Yes, this is a discussion item. Are there any questions or discussion on the strategic initiatives grant opportunities? Okay, almost there. 7.2.G, also a discussion item. The 2027 through 2029 biennial budget request. Any questions or discussion on this? Okay. Seeing none, we will have a 10-minute break approximately. The board will recess until 10:10. The board will resume in 1 minute. Got it all done. And we're almost done with our meeting. Any bets? Any bets on what time we're done?
Well, that was 11:30. I think that's going to be cool.
We're halfway. That's okay. Okay, agenda item 7.3. Chair Lisa Schonhoff will report on behalf of the Planning and Evaluation Committee meeting.
The Planning and Evaluation Committee reports on their committee meeting on August 6, 2026. The members present were Lisa Schonhoff, Sherry Jones, Deborah Neary, and Kristen Christensen. The committee reviewed an action item related to the approval of educator preparation programs for 26-27. The committee recommends board approval of this item. The committee also reviewed action items related to the conditional approval of new non-public Rule 14 school systems for Sandhill Cranes Montessori, Adult Education Center, and Identity Preparatory Academy. The committee has no recommendation for these 3 items. The committee reviewed discussion items with NDE staff, providing summaries and answering questions related to the Nebraska Correctional Youth Facility Special Purpose Agreement proposal, the approval of plans of corrections for Rule 10, 14, and 18 school systems and interim program schools, the approval of priority school progress plans, and the social studies content standards review. NDE staff will bring informational items to a future meeting for discussion and subsequent approval where appropriate. This concludes the Planning and Evaluation report.
Are there any questions on the Planning and Evaluation Committee report? Is there a motion on item 7.3.a?
Yes, I move to approve educator preparation programs for 2026-2027.
Second.
It is moved and seconded to approve educator preparation programs for 2026-2027. Is there any discussion on the motion? Okay, I do have a question for Brad Dirksen, but I swear it's my last one for the rest of the whole meeting. Mr. Dirksen.
Brad Dirksen, Administrator, Office of Accreditation Certification Approval. Brought my phone a friend help, Jim Kent here, who oversees the direct approval components.
Perfect, thank you. So my question is, how many of our EPPs received on-site reviews this year?
3.
3? Okay. And what is the schedule? What's the yearly cycle of how many years?
So it's a 7-year cycle.
Okay.
I've been here for 2 years. There are 5 that will be done in the next 2 years, 3 years, I guess, before they get there on site.
And my big question,
Okay.
this is really why I'm here, having you here, is are they all demonstrating compliance with our new literacy requirements?
Yes.
How so?
They are revising their existing coursework. They are adding new coursework to meet those requirements.
Okay, so from your perspective, and maybe Brad is the better person because he sits in the Rules Committee. So this statute, I think it's 79-138, the literacy one, went into effect in 2019. So Brad, in your opinion, did our rule change? Is that what has prompted them to finally adhere to state statute?
I think the Rule 20 change that was made in regards to literacy further strengthened. I think there was starting to shift in that direction. I think the Rule 20 and then the additional compliance efforts has further strengthened compliance. And I think that we're on an extremely strong path in that direction. Just to see the engagement at the Educator Forum this last Monday, I think further shows that willingness to come on board and really make that shift and create the literacy gains that we need for our students in the state.
Well, thank you so much for your leadership in the rule revision process. Jim, thank you for your on-site reviews. We do know it is important, and I was speaking with a superintendent who didn't realize that the shift hadn't fully occurred in our EPPs. And he said, oh, now I understand why I was having to train new teachers how to teach reading. So I think we're making great gains toward our 2030 goal. So thank you for that. Any other questions?
Statement.
Yes.
We talked about this in our meeting yesterday, and the fact that I will be, for next year, requesting all documents pertaining to literacy instruction by our education preparation programs, so that all of our board has the time necessary to go through it and look at what you all are doing in your programs. As we know that 75% of our kids reading at proficient levels by 2030 is a very serious goal, and one that obviously our education preparation programs are a huge part of. And so we take that very seriously.
Lisa, Sherry, did you have something?
I was just going to say what Lisa said because we discussed that. So we committee members are very in tune with making sure that Brad and Kent let the EPPs know of our monitoring that's going to be going on and the importance. So thank you.
Thank you. Everyone's rowing in the same direction, so we appreciate that. Thank you, both of you. The motion is to approve educator preparation programs for 2026-2027. Would the recording secretary please call the roll?
Douglas,
Yes.
Penner,
Yes.
Tegmeyer,
Yes.
Neary,
Yes.
Christensen,
Yes.
Renner,
Yes.
Jones,
Yes.
Schoenhoff,
Yes.
8 yes.
The affirmative has it, and the motion to approve educator preparation programs for 2026-27 is adopted. Is there a motion on item 7.3.b?
Yes, I move to authorize conditional approval of new non-public Rule 14 school system Sandhill Cranes Montessori.
Second.
It is moved and seconded to authorize conditional approval of new non-public Rule 14 school system Sandhill Cranes Montessori. Is there any discussion on the motion? Maggie, yes.
Thank you. I have a question. I'm not sure if it's for you or for the committee, but I know when we've approved lists before, they've all been as one item. Why this time are they three separate?
I think because they're all three very distinct schools.
Okay, it's
Montessori, adult ed, and then a different one, yeah.
okay, it's about the schools. It's not, okay.
And board members have requested that we don't just bulk approve.
Okay.
Mhm.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. Any other discussion on the motion? The motion is to authorize conditional approval of new non-public Rule 14 school system Sandhill Cranes Montessori. Would the recording secretary please call the roll?
Renner,
Yes.
Douglas,
Yes.
Christensen,
Yes.
Jones,
Yes.
Tegmeyer,
Yes.
Penner,
Yes.
Neary,
Yes.
Schoenhoff,
Yes.
8 yes.
The affirmative has it, and the motion to authorize conditional approval of new non-public Rule 14 school system Sandhill Cranes Montessori is adopted. Is there a motion on item 7.3.c?
Yes, I move to authorize conditional approval of new non-public Rule 14 school system adult education center.
Second.
It is moved and seconded to authorize conditional approval of new non-public Rule 14 school system adult education center. Is there any discussion on the motion? The motion is to authorize conditional approval of new non-public Rule 14 School System Adult Education Center. Would the recording secretary please call the roll?
Schoenhoff.
Yes.
Neary.
Yes.
Christensen.
Yes.
Renner.
Yes.
Jones.
Yes.
Douglas.
Yes.
Penner.
Yes.
Tegmeyer.
Yes.
8 yes.
The affirmative has it, and the motion to authorize conditional approval of new non-public Rule 14 School System Adult Education Center is adopted. Is there a motion on item 7.3.d?
Yes, I move to authorize conditional approval of new non-public Rule 14 School System Identity Preparatory Academy.
Second.
It is moved and seconded to authorize conditional approval of new non-public Rule 14 School System Identity Preparatory Academy. Is there any discussion on the motion? Kirk?
President, I move to postpone the main motion to a date as soon as we can, to give us an opportunity to talk to Dr. Phillips a little bit more and visit the school. But we need a date and a time. Got to have a date and a time. So if you're open to that, I think it would be a good idea. And we got a lot of different information from Dr. Phillips today. I don't want to, I got the motion
I
on the
know, like,
table.
this is, I'm like trying to like capture the
stop.
motion.
Yeah,
The
that's-
motion is to
Yeah.
postpone. Is there a second on the motion? Oh, okay, the motion is to postpone until when, Kirk? I need a date.
We got everybody's got schedules.
No, give me a
I'm
date.
going to give you a date. I'm going to give you a date of Tuesday, August 11th at
9 a.m.,
1 p.m.
1 p.m. Okay, so the motion is to postpone the approval of new non-public Rule 14 School System Identity Preparatory Academy until Tuesday, August 11th at 1 p.m. Is there a second on the motion?
Second.
It has been moved and seconded to postpone the conditional approval of new non-public Rule 14 School System Identity Preparatory Academy until Tuesday, August 11th at 1 p.m. Is there any discussion on the motion? Deborah?
I've prepared some written notes for this. First of all, I want to say, going to use that word precedent that I know you love, Lisa. In the 8 years I've been on this board, we have approved so many Rule 14, 18, and 10 schools. And I can't remember, and maybe there has been a time, but I can't remember a time where we have divided out and voted individually on the approved schools. This was a unique situation where we changed from what our normal procedures were. We also changed, there was another procedural matter that has concerned me. Well, and I know Elizabeth was the person that made the request to vote for these individually rather than as a group. And she has explained what her reason was, but in 8 years, every time we have approved a list of approved schools, they've always been of different types of schools. I mean, they're rarely of the very same time. And so this is a procedural matter that concerned me. Second, what has concerned me is our committee has had this topic for several months. And in our committee, I'm just going to read my notes. Second, when a committee brings an item to the full board, it has, in my 8 years of experience, been that we bring an item with recommendation for approval, or we just bring a recommendation for a vote or to turn down. But in every case I've ever been a part of, we've always had a committee discussion. If we were going to turn something down that has met all the criteria, there has always been a reason and a transparent discussion about why we're turning something down. Now, that is not the case. You will notice that this has come forward, no matter how hard I tried to get a recommendation of approval, our committee voted against just bringing it for a vote. But no one at any time in our committee gave any reason for why this would not go to the board with an approval. I just want to say that the public expects us to make decisions that are transparent, principled, and grounded in Nebraska law and board policy. Whether we ultimately vote yes or no on any matter, Nebraskans deserve to understand why. That is a very foundation of good governance. In this case, the applicant, Identity Prep, has met all the legal requirements and policy standards established by the board. If any member believes now, or believed over the last 2 months of discussions, that there is some policy or guideline or regulation that they have not met that needs to be discussed here and now, and it should have been discussed in a committee so that everyone could have had time to process that information, but it wasn't. If any member believes those requirements have not been met, that concern should be clearly stated on the record by board members so that the applicant, the public, and if necessary, the courts can understand the basis for the decision. Reasonable people disagree. That's part of our job here as elected leaders, is to have conversations, disagree, come to understandings, and come to find ways to bring success for all the stakeholders involved in our work. What concerns me and brings me continued frustration is not disagreement itself, but the possibility that votes may be predetermined without a public explanation or even a private explanation grounded in our statutes and our board policies, and without any transparency at all. I've been seeing this happen at almost every board meeting these days, where we see a vote take place and there's no explanation, and once the vote happens, there's no discussion. When a governmental body like us denies an application that appears to satisfy its established legal standards without articulating a legal or policy basis, it creates uncertainty for everyone involved. It can undermine public confidence in the board's work and expose the state to unnecessary legal challenges, which I know we don't want. Plus, in this case, Identity Prep has students, enrollment is full, they are ready to begin school in a couple of weeks. Do we really have the right to bring the kind of chaos that I have heard through the grapevine from the community members to not approve this today? Our role is to determine whether our role is not to determine whether we personally agree with every aspect of a school's educational philosophy. Our responsibility is to determine whether the application satisfies the standards established by Nebraska law and by this board. If those standards need to be changed, we should openly discuss changing them for future applicants. But we should not apply new or unwritten standards after an applicant has complied with all the rules that exist today. Identity prep deserves the same fair, objective, and transparent review that every applicant deserves. Likewise, every future applicant should know that this board will evaluate applications according to the law, not according to undisclosed criteria. So I am going to vote against postponing a vote because they meet all their criteria. There is no question that still remains, and if there is, we can have that discussion right now. It is unfair to put a school in chaos that has done all the work that they've done.
Thank you, Deborah.
You're welcome.
Yep, thank you. Any other discussion on this item? Kirk?
I think it's
I will say too, I do want to just remind all board members, please, if you need to, direct your comments to the chair. Thank you.
And I think it would be, I think it's reasonable to go to August 11th. It's a couple of days. I'm not asking for a month to postpone this. I'll give you a specific date and time. I'm curious to see if one of you breaks from voting with Deb Neary for the first time and ask for the postponement. I think it's worth the time.
Kirk, can you explain, help everyone understand why you would like more time? Would you do that?
Yep. Because the research that we've done is
You-
different. Excuse me?
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, why I want more time? Because I want to go up there and I want to talk to Dr. Phillips and staff and everybody, and I want to see the whole program. Because what we were seeing is totally different than what Dr. Phillips was saying today. So we need a little bit more time to vet the whole process, because we did not misinterpret. The only thing I didn't agree with Dr. Phillips was we didn't misinterpret liberatory practices and abolitionist education framework. You can't misinterpret that. And so I want to give a second chance here to go take a look at it, because they are saying that they're moving away from that into something more community-based with their curriculum. And that is the reason for the postponement. 3 days.
Liz?
I just have a procedural question on how this works. So you're suggesting we postpone this vote until 1 PM on the 11th? So between today and 1 PM, the staff of Identity Prep are here, and at Identity Prep are supposed to coordinate for a special visit from anywhere from 1 to 8 State Board of Education members to ask one question. What is your social studies curriculum? What is
We're
the,
going to discuss more of the difference between what was on the website and where they were going to what was discussed today.
and I guess my question is what our staff at NDE who oversaw the compliance with our regulations can't answer that. Why do you need a special visit for this?
I would like a special visit. I'm just making the request.
Okay, I am going to voice, I do have concerns. I'm open to, I want to say I appreciate your interest to further information because I think that's always good. However, I'm really concerned about how tight this is to the start of their school year. And I'm just wondering if there's a more expeditious way we can do this. That would be my concern.
Maggie?
Thank you. I think I am still unclear on why we're going after their curriculum if that's a district or building decision. Can that be explained?
Is that a question for Kirk?
Whoever wants to answer.
Kirk, would you like to answer? All right, I'm trying to procedurally go around to all board members. Deb.
I've said my piece. I'd like to hear some others. There's some state statutes involved.
Sure.
Yes, the curriculum was not the concern to me. It was fulfilling the requirements of Rule 14. And my questions would be directed specifically to Dr. Phillips. So I don't think a staff member would have the information that she knows best. And so that would be really important for me to have a vote of confidence in talking with her and staff members. I don't think I can have a vote of confidence in a yes way unless I do. So that's just me personally.
Go ahead.
Any other? Well, fine. If no one's going to pull up statute, then I will. Sorry, it's on my phone. It's very tiny. So in an abolitionist framework, which was what was on the website previous to this week, an abolitionist framework seeks to abolish the structure of American government and the things that this has been built on. And we have a civics statute. I'm trying to, that states, it is the responsibility of society to ensure that youth are given the opportunity to become competent, responsible, patriotic, and civil citizens, to ensure a strong, stable, just, and prosperous America. And then it goes down a little bit and it says, the youth in our state should be committed to the ideals and values of our country's democracy and the constitutional republic established by the people. The statute was approved by 44 state senators. So that went across both across the aisle, 44 of them. I'm glad to hear that things have changed on the website, and I think that given the abrupt change and given our civic statute, there's concern that if a school is operating under an abolitionist framework, they would not be able to adhere to this statute or the spirit of the statute. And so I would respectfully request that we postpone the vote to gain more information going forward. Okay. Liz and then Deb.
Okay, yeah. I have two thoughts that I want to share. I want to share the perspective that I'm coming at this from, which is specifically regarding supporting American ideals. And the way I look at it, I see identity prep as a perfect American civics lesson in action. The founder and a board collaborated with their community, with parents, with students, with caretakers for potential students to form an educational environment that serves their needs. And they have proceeded to engage in the process in every way that we've laid out. There's nothing more American than what they're doing. They're participating in the system. They've met with all the state requirements. They could have opted not to seek state approval. That's their right to do. So I want to applaud them for engaging in the process that our state has outlined. And I kind of feel like we're at the point now where the last part of this process, the civics lesson, is us. And our job is the what, not the how. They're in charge of the curriculum. We're in charge of the standards. And our role is not to deep dive into the day-to-day of how they choose to educate their community and the students that they send there. However, I love discussion. I love information. And if I can get a guarantee that you are genuinely, truly going into this open-minded to discuss with Dr. Phillips and see the school, I think you're going to be impressed. I think you're going to be wowed. I have confidence in what you'll experience there, I'm leaning towards voting with the postponement, but I am highly concerned that we're not going to meet their start deadline. And I'm just thinking of all those girls with their backpacks ready and eager to start their day on August 19th. So I need to hear assurance that open minds are going into that conversation.
Deborah, and then we'll answer Liz's question.
I think if you had been part of the committee discussion, you might have a different thought on this, and I want to explain that. But first of all, I just want to say, this has been on our agenda and on our committee for 2 months, and no one has ever brought anything forward. And we keep doing this, and we keep causing chaos and extra work where there doesn't need to be chaos. The other thing I want to say is, what we learned in committee is this is called a conditional approval, meaning all they have to do is pass certain basic standards, which they've done. They, for the next year, are going to continue to be evaluated and improvements suggested. This is what we do with all approval schools. By us postponing this on a criteria that has nothing to do with what is legal and in policy, on a school that is focused on African American children, it's not a good look. And I would be very uncomfortable with postponing when there is absolutely no, they've passed all the standards. All these discussions and visits can happen. You can still go next week and visit the school and give your input to the staff, who will continually be evaluating this because that's their job over the next year. But it's disrespectful. I think it might be illegal. And I believe that we have a responsibility not to increase chaos, but to support schools that are trying to do the right thing for the students of Nebraska.
Kristen.
I just want to point out the three things that I've looked at as I've been considering this application and this piece of our agenda. And the three pieces are their application, the application that the department requires for a new conditional Rule 14 school, the statute that President Tegmeyer mentioned, 79-724, and Rule 14. And how those pieces, in my opinion, overlap and align, and how they're kind of coalescing into this conversation. The piece of the application that we're all talking about right now is pertaining to the middle level grades instruction on this application. And the social studies piece says social studies, including instruction required pursuant to Nebraska Revised Statute 79-724. That's what you mentioned earlier. It does not say what curriculum, with a capital C, the materials that you would use to teach the requirements in 79-724. That's beyond our purview. Curriculum with a capital C, the actual materials, the actual things that you use to teach the instruction. Then in our Rule 14 that the board has approved, there is a piece about curriculum with a lowercase c. The school has written guides or frameworks for each core curriculum area. So curriculum with a lowercase c there is talking about the framework that you are using, the scope and sequence, the topics that you're teaching in each grade level that is required of a Rule 14 school to be submitted and to be approved. It never talks about the board, us board, approving or not approving which materials they're using to teach these requirements. So from my standpoint, with those three pieces, the application, the statute, and the Rule 14, they have met the criteria to be an approved, conditionally approved Rule 14 school, because the actual materials that they're using, the curriculum that they might purchase or give to students or use as teaching guides for their teachers is beyond our purview. That is not within our scope. That's a local school board decision. That's a non-public board decision for them to decide. In my perspective, they have met all the criteria to be a conditionally approved school.
Any further, oh, Sherry?
Yes, I will make another comment. It's not the curriculum, I'll say that again, that's concerning to me. It's the framework of the school. And when you look into the requirements of Rule 14, it also includes 79-725 and 79-724. And when you read this, it talks about obedience to law, desirable citizenry, etc. And if you do your homework on this framework, it is not supportive of that. So I want to hear from Dr. Phillips about the things that I've read about the abolitionist framework, educational framework. And that is going to be key to me. So whatever people need to do, but that's what I need to make a fair, informed vote. So.
Okay, so Liz, you've spoken twice?
No, I haven't spoken.
Okay, yeah.
I hear that, and I actually I want you to have a conversation about abolitionist teachings and have a broader, better, deeper understanding of what it means. Because it's not about breaking the law and tearing down society. It's much more constructive than that. So I think it would benefit you and any other board member that's concerned to learn from somebody what that means and what it looks like for a social studies environment and a school environment for young women. So I would like that conversation to happen.
Is there anyone else who wants to speak on this who hasn't?
I just would like to ask why, after 2 months, today's the first time we're hearing this. Because we could have had those conversations and respectfully invited Dr. Phillips in to talk to us over the last couple of months. But this is such a disrespectful time to everybody to bring it up at the 11th hour when we have kids waiting to be enrolled. They're enrolled, waiting to start a new school year. So can you help me understand why, once again, we're hearing about something for the first time at a public board meeting?
Would anyone like to answer that question?
I was asking Sherry.
I can respond to that. I'll just make a general statement that may not exactly, but I think this is the truth behind this. I would encourage board members to take a look within themselves when questioning the function or dysfunction of committee and board work. And I'm more concerned with what is than a look, which was mentioned. I'm more concerned with what is and what could be than what something looks like. Appearance. And that's all I'll say.
Okay, Kirk, this is
You
your
asked
second.
for
This
a-
is your second time.
Is this
Just-
my, okay,
Mhm.
want to make sure I'm
keeping a
good.
list.
I just wanted to give you the commitment that I'm going to look at it. And the question is, it's the abolitionist framework, and this is the Bible, so to speak, of abolitionist framework. So if anybody wants to go and see why we're a little bit concerned at this quick switch on the website, yeah, we want to do more than survive abolitionist teaching and the pursuit of educational freedom by Bettina L. Love. That's the concern, and you don't have to read the entire book. You should read the entire book, but go to page 2 and 3. That's the concern. So I'm not asking you to read the whole book. There's the concern. And that's all I've got, and that's all I'm going to say about it. But I think it's worth the time to go up there. And since she's made the switch, I think it would be very advantageous for somebody to vote to postpone that. Thank you.
Is there anyone else who hasn't spoken twice that would like to add to the conversation? And I do want to say, it's been very civil. Thank you. Look at
There
you
was
just
some-
pushing the envelope.
I'm so sorry. I don't want to push the envelope
No, you're
in
fine.
terms of disagreement, but I do want to push the envelope in progress. And there was some crosstalk, so I didn't hear a commitment for open-mindedness. Because if you're going to critique abolitionist frameworks directly to the founder of the school, I'm not cool with that. But if you're going to have a dialogue and learn more about the school, I am.
Because she asked a question, I will let you speak again.
Well, this is what's causing the issue. It's the original abolitionist framework and liberatory practices. So that's the issue. That's why I want to talk, so making sure, hey, you're not doing this, right? We're Army, Navy, she's an Army brat, she's a veteran's child, and that's the discussion we got to have.
That doesn't sound open-minded. That sounds like, prove to me that you're not doing what I don't want you to do with your curriculum. I want to hear that you're going to be open-minded to what this school offers to this community.
Can I?
Go ahead.
Okay. No, I am just gonna say that after Dr. Phillips spoke, and we took our 10-minute recess, I went up to Kirk and I said, hey, things sound different. What do you think about a postponement, which would give more time? The website that he had accessed, that he had looked at, has changed. The information has changed. Board members want time to understand and digest the changes, because I feel like there is a genuine earnestness to know and understand and make a qualified vote on the complete information that Dr. Phillips has. And so I asked him, would you consider a postponement instead of a flat no? He said yes. That's where this is coming from, is I think there's more to this than what we saw on the applications, than what was seen on the website. And sometimes when things change, we need to step back a moment and reevaluate. Somebody mentioned an August 19th start date. August 11th would still give more than a week. So, yes.
There has to be a vote.
The August 11th at 1 PM would be the vote.
Would be the vote.
It would be a Zoom meeting of the board. We've done that before. Do you have a question, Deb, or comment?
By saying we're going to postpone the vote, we as a board are saying we are going to put different criteria on this school catering to African American children than we put on any other school we have ever approved. That doesn't sound legal. It sounds disrespectful. It sounds racist. And I can't believe we're even considering this. They have passed all the approval standards. To put them into chaos over something that is not within our appropriate requirements is inviting unnecessary, perhaps legal interventions, but certainly creating an atmosphere and a message that I don't want to send to the school in North Omaha.
Okay, so does anybody, we haven't heard from some board members, which is totally fine if you want to keep your peace, but at this point, several people have spoken, and so, yes, if those of you who haven't spoken would like to say something, and then I'm going to call for a vote.
Thank you, and my peace is not kept. This is a lot. I hear everything that's happening and what's being said. I'm thinking about the times that I've been on the board when we have had a list of to approve or not to approve, and there has not been the vibe of this homework being done on a school, and this precedent that may happen is concerning to me. Like, for example, there are some schools that I've heard teach this way or that way, or teach with this framework, and is it concerning to me personally as a human? Yes, but it's not in my purview to say, I don't support this school. Like, I can't say no to that school because legally this is like, just the limitations of the law is how I interpreted it. And I hear that there's different interpretations with that statute. However, like, I really want this school to be passed, so I am leaning towards voting for the extension, but I'm glad that you asked for, like, open-mindedness, and if it's helpful to have some of us that have worked in that community to be there, I would be more than happy to go on a tour or something, but just anything we can do to help understanding and move this school forward.
Anyone else? Okay, well,
I think you've all done a great job covering every point, and that's why I'm not speaking. I don't think that there's anything I could say more that hasn't been covered, other than for those of you on the board that have remained civil and open to dialogue. I appreciate that, because that is what a board should do. So thank you.
I will say I'm disappointed that the race factor came into this because nobody else raised that. There was concern with statute, and I don't believe that this is racially motivated in any way. And so at this point, I'm going to repeat the motion. The motion is to postpone the conditional approval of new non-public Rule 14 school system Identity Preparatory Academy until Tuesday, August 11th at 1 p.m. Would the recording secretary please call the roll?
Penner,
Yes.
Douglas,
Yes.
Christensen,
No.
Neary,
No.
Schoenhoff,
Yes.
Tegmeyer,
Yes.
Jones,
Yes.
Renner.
Yes.
6 yes, 2 no.
The affirmative has it, and the motion to postpone the conditional approval of new non-public Rule 14 school system Identity Preparatory Academy is adopted. Okay. Okay. And based on this vote, I do need the commissioner to establish a full board meeting. It will be an electronic meeting on Tuesday, August 11th at 1 p.m., and the public would have access to that meeting through the State Board of Education's website. All right. Agenda item 7.3.e, this is a discussion item. Nebraska Correctional Youth Facility Special Purpose Agreement Proposal. Board members, this is the time for discussion. Are there any questions or discussion on this item? Okay, seeing none. Item 7.3.f, this is also a discussion item. Approval of plans of correction for Rules 10, 14, and 18 school systems and interim program schools. Any discussion or questions on this item? Item 7.3.g is a discussion item. Approve the priority school progress plans. Board members, are there any questions or discussion on this item?
I have a point on
Okay,
this one.
yes, please.
This is another one where I had mentioned possibly separating the plans out for voting. when it becomes an action statement, because the different schools will clearly have very different plans. And so there wasn't one way or the other, but it wasn't decided on one way or the other, but it was a point to take into consideration for when this becomes an action item.
I would be very curious. I looked at the plans, and I remember when several years ago, we had some plans that we were looking at for an elementary, and there was some pretty big concerns about maybe a lack of an aspirational goal for that a few years ago, and I had some big concerns myself. I'm not on the committee, so I don't get to have those committee conversations, but I am concerned about the plan draft for Northwest High School. It says by June 2027, Northwest High School will increase ACT proficiency from 12.5% to 15.5% in English language. And I feel like a 3% increase is not aspirational, and I am concerned about that sort of low goal. It continues. They will increase the four-year graduation rate from 69 to 72, and this percent, these are percentages, and the seven-year cohort graduation rate from 81 to 83%. They will increase the number of students on track for graduation from 58 to 63%. Don't feel like these are particularly aspirational goals, and I have concerns about this particular plan. I looked at the other two schools that have been designated priority schools, and their goals are much more aspirational. Just because we set a goal a little bit higher doesn't mean that we're a failure if we don't meet it, but it's a goal, it's something to work for, and I'm not sure that I feel like 3 percentage point changes is a goal. And I mean, it was, it's like that silly poster that I used to have in my classroom that said, shoot for the moon, even if you miss, you'll land among the stars. Like let's shoot for a little bit higher. And so I would like to see these numbers be more aspirational for the students. Deb?
First, I want to say, Shirley, we miss you. And if you're listening from your car while you're driving to Massachusetts, just know I wish you were here right now. I'm channeling Dr. Vargas because I believe first I'll have my own commentary. I think sometimes we confuse our role with the role of the staff and the professional experts that have spent many hours working with these individual schools. And for us to have a superficial look at something and say it's not aspirational enough is not, in my opinion, taking into account the many considerations of the students that make up that school and all the other challenges that might be faced. It's also, having spent my life working on goals, I know that when I've been given a goal that is not reachable, not realistic, I have always just given up because I can't reach it. When the school staff are involved in helping to create the goal, and they know based on what their audience is, what's been done in the past, what needs to be changed in order to make improvement, they know what is an achievable goal and most likely will exceed it. I am disappointed that we are moving into areas that I feel are the staff's work to bring us recommendations, because they're the ones that have all the details and have spent a great deal of time learning the background on these schools. So I know that we all have high expectations for this, and I have no doubt, since I know the principal of Northwest, that Dr. Thomas will exceed our expectations, but I don't feel like it's appropriate for the staff to, for the board to override a decision of the staff in something like this when we haven't spent the same amount of time that they have working with that school.
I think there might be some confusion about the role of elected officials in that it is our job to be the checks and balances for the people who elect us. And so digging into research, the amount of time that it takes to do our due diligence and donate to the great state of Nebraska is something that I would love to commend everyone on this board for. And I take it as a great honor that we were elected into this very important position. And so I love working with each staff member, and I will continue to be the annoying one that asks all the questions, because that is our job as elected officials, because we represent the people who elected us.
Any other discussion on this item? Okay, so I'm going to take my second time on this one. So according to Google, Northwest High School has 1,517 students. So at 12.5% that have reached proficiency in ELA, that is 189 students. To increase that number to 15.5 is 235 students. I am not a math teacher, but I can subtract. And 235 minus 189 is 46 students. So our aspirational goal is to increase ELA proficiency by 46 students. I'm not really sure. I'm gonna branch off from that. Those are the facts. That's what the numbers that I pulled up. But I want to make a point, and I'm going to say this, and I'm probably going to make some people mad. But this is a discussion item. I have been harping on, we need to have discussions when it's a discussion item. So often, it's like, is there any comment, any questions or discussion? And we, no, okay, next discussion, next discussion. And we go through them, and we go through them, and we flip pages, and we end our board meeting. And so here we are. Our previous agenda item was an action item, and the comment was, why are these things not coming to the board for discussion when they're a discussion item? So I open it up for discussion, and I want to have discussion on what I see and how I'm concerned, and we were able to change the priority school, that elementary priority school, we changed their goal to 25%, and they exceeded it. And I'm disappointed that when I open this up for discussion, instead of being heard, I was treated with opposition and argument. That's not a discussion. That's not saying, I hear you, let's come together and work on this and figure this out. I was told this isn't your job. And so that disappoints me, and I think that's why discussion is consistently not happening on this board, is because people are tired of having things shut down or feeling attacked. Deb?
I guess I thought discussion meant you bring an idea, I bring my opinion, you come back with your opinion, and we figure out where that common ground is. I didn't know that you were seeking approval of your idea, so I feel a complete responsibility to share my opinion when I disagree and when I think we're going to hurt a school. And I'm sorry that you feel that way, but this is how I believe discussion is supposed to work. And I will always believe our job is to review what the staff bring to us, to ask questions, but to also respect that they have worked on this and have far more information than we do. And so our job is to ask questions that get us to, like, I wonder if a better approach would have been to ask for the committee to go back and say, how is this decided? What is the school recommending? What is the demographic? What are some of the reasons they've set the goal? I mean, we haven't asked any of those questions, so to just come up with an idea feels like it's not our role. Our role is to find out where we can improve and ask the questions to make sure that we can improve.
Well, I am asking the questions right now, like, is this goal high enough? I'd like to see it higher. Dr. Vargas has unfortunately left. She's gone to Massachusetts. But I do believe that the staff who are listening in are available. I mean, we had some pretty big full board conversations. I remember Board Member Morrison was also advocating for higher goals at that meeting that we had. This is a discussion time. I don't know what the feeder schools are into Northwest High School. I'm not familiar with the geography of Omaha. Board members, is King Science and Conestoga, are they feeder schools into, does anyone know? Do they feed into Northwest? Not Conestoga, maybe. I don't know, but, you know, I mean, we're told that Conestoga has a 17% proficiency in ELA. And so, I mean, we just want to challenge. We want to make sure that our students are getting what they deserve. We have been charged by the people of Nebraska to ensure that all students receive a free and appropriate public education. And low proficiency is not about me, it's not about what I want, it's what's best for the students. And as I understand, yes, our staff works with the schools. I've been through this process with priority schools in the past. I know our staff works with them, but sometimes it is our job as board members to look at things and examine them. If it wasn't our job, we wouldn't get these documents. We would just vote yes at the meeting. So I am going to ask the hard questions. I am going to care, because it's not about anyone sitting at this table. It's about these kids who need to graduate with the skills so they can succeed and have a good, prosperous life and a good future. So I don't know if committee members can carry those concerns for me, but I thought this was the appropriate time to have that conversation with my fellow board members. Any other comments on this discussion item? Okay, item 7.3.H, discussion item, social studies content standards. Are there any questions or discussion on this item? Yes, Maggie?
I don't have any questions or anything. I just really appreciated the public comment today, hearing like how teachers are affected by them, because that was a lens I hadn't thought of previously. So grateful for those that came to public comment. Thank you.
And I also want to thank, there was a group of policy organizations that came together and had a town hall last week regarding the social studies standards. And it was led by Stanford School, but other policy organizations were also involved. And we had a really good audience of local school board members and teachers and people that were on the writing committee in the past for social studies standards. And I appreciated all the impact that we received. And I shared some of it in our committee meeting yesterday, and I'm hoping that everyone thinks about those. Thank you.
Any other comments on this discussion item?
Just,
Liz?
so this updated version that we've got in our minutes, will that be, I don't know if
Are you asking?
I don't know if the Commissioner, Dr. Ford, can just answer. I don't know if we need to call anyone up, but will those be available online for the public to view, or is public input still? They are right now. Okay. Thank you.
Sherry?
Yes, I'll just add a few thoughts, and they may be kind of disjointed, but although not where I'd perhaps like the content standards to be for social studies right now, I believe the proposed social studies standards are an improvement over the current. And when I think back to comments about how good the past ones, I want to bring to attention to the board and our constituency that our social studies standards receive low marks from, and some would consider these experts, some would not consider these experts, but they're national groups. Fordham Institute, the National Association of Scholars, and Civics Alliance said that we got a D and a D minus and said that they need to be scrapped and start over. So that's just some background information about what some of the perhaps quote experts have said. And the social studies team and NDE, which have some expertise, they gave us the opportunity to give input on the standards throughout the process, and I really appreciated that as a board member. In fact, NDE created an online document, which was beyond what they usually do, giving us 4 committee members the opportunity to put comments. And I know a couple of us, at least I can verify, spent hours going through every comment, or every standard, and we listed comments. So 3 of us, planning and evaluation committees, submitted comments. Not all of us, but 3 of us did. And the social studies team had considered eliminating the examples on the standards, and they got input from board members, and they decided to keep the examples. So I applaud them for listening to board members, listening to constituents, public comment, I presume, except we're going to get a look at some more public comment. But anyway, and there were some other requests that they regarded or they considered. And so as I said, even though they're not maybe in content where I'd like them to be, I think there's some improvement over them from the current. And I would encourage the other 4 board members to give some time to them prior to our vote next month. Thank you.
Anyone else?
Yeah. Yes, sorry, I was just looking for my notes. So this draft of the standards contains, I went through the standards from 2018 and compared them to the ones being proposed. And I was so proud to be a part of this team when we passed the 2018 standards, because the process was incredible, and there was tremendous feedback about what was passed. And this is something I care about as having a master's in social studies or in history. But there were things about this process that concerned me. One of the things is, and I talked to a lot of people on the writing teams and who led the writing teams for social studies in the last 20 years. And what I learned was every year for the last 20 years, Nebraska has received a D- score on our social studies standards, because that is a political organization with a specific agenda that is not about supporting public schools and not about inclusivity. they don't even promote the idea of teaching economics and geography as part of the social studies. An emphasis on white man's history is more what they were looking for. We've never, as a board, ever even received that as something to look at when we're considering the standards. And I raised my concerns that we were even taking the Fordham Institute suggestions with any seriousness at all, since that has never been the case before. The other thing that has concerned me is the proposed standards that we are going to be asked to vote on have fewer references now to cultural diversity, immigration, civic participation, indigenous history, marginalized communities, and multiple historical perspectives. Younger students will have less exposure to historical figures such as Harriet Tubman, Crazy Horse, Martin Luther King Jr., etc. We cut out examples where those figures and those ideas were part of the examples. So I don't see that as a step forward. I see that as a concerning step backwards, and I was told by teachers that live in smaller rural communities that they need those examples in the standards, or they're going to be maybe called on the carpet, like, why are you teaching about these ideas and this, and if it's not listed there as an example, then it makes it harder for them to be able to teach these subjects. So these were my concerns. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm not on the committee, but I have read through the standards closely. I also have a master's degree in American history, so this is a subject that I have a lot of interest in. And I did not feel like they were a step forward either, for a lot of the reasons that Deborah pointed out. I will say I was relieved. I sent a couple of comments into the staff about items that had been pulled out of the standards, specifically regarding migration, historical and contemporary patterns of migration and causes. It was gone from the version that I read, and it looks like it maybe got pulled out accidentally in an editing error. So it was added back in, and I was grateful for that and for the students that will have that as a standard and learn about those issues. It did raise concerns for me about the process. Having not been in it as intimately as a committee member, that just raised a red flag to me. So that's what I have to contribute to the conversation. I know there were some staff changes in that department, so I feel confident in who's on it now and where it will go going forward. So I'm looking forward to reading it now, and maybe I'll have a new thoughts about it. But yeah, that's all I have for now.
Lisa and Art. Oh, no, okay, Lisa.
I just think, I would say the most important thing is that we're following state statute and making sure we're taking the guesswork out of the standards for teachers, because I agree the teachers have to be readable, they have to be user-friendly. And so we just need to make sure that we are taking out the subjectiveness and making sure that the teachers are able to have an objective set of standards that follow state statute. And this is one of those things that I think I would like to say that everybody in here probably loves our nation, right? We're super grateful to be in the best nation in the world, and that's why these are such an important piece for our schools, and we all take it very seriously, And again, I would just like to say that I'm very grateful for those on our board that are always open to dialogue and having civil conversation. So thank you.
Yeah, Deb?
Can you either tell us today or bring to our committee meeting next month the specific statutes that you're referring to?
We discussed them.
I'd love to have them again then, thank you.
Oh, Sherry, so your
Yeah,
light is on?
Just very briefly, because I just flipped it open to first grade. So just as for the public who are listening right now, perhaps, because I would be concerned if we didn't have a variety of individuals. But listed, it says, for example, this first grade, governors, civic leaders such as Susan B. Anthony, Martin Luther King Jr., Rosa Parks, Chief Standing Bear, Williams Jennings Bryan, and George Norris. Pretty good mix there. And another one, for example, Abraham Lincoln, Frederick Douglass, Martin Luther King Jr., Standing Bear, Willa Cather, and Susan LaFlesche. I didn't say that right probably, but just there's a nice little variety there. So I don't know that any were pulled out. But that's just from first grade only. So
Can I respond to that since I went through every example? I can give you a list of all the places that those same figures were pulled out. They are in the standards, but they aren't listed in as many different topics as they were before. So what I'm hearing is it's okay to segregate them to a one-time, discussion, but when we've taken them out of all these other standards where they could also be mentioned, I am disappointed that they've been erased. So for me, it's not what about was put in the standards, it's about all the things that have been taken out. And I think I have 2 or 3 pages of examples listed out that were taken out. It was a very time-consuming project.
Well, I am not on this committee. And so first of all, I know it's been a very long and arduous task for board members as well as staff and the curriculum writing team that writes the standards. So I do want to thank everyone for their work on that part. I am appreciative of it. I did request, my one request, and I do believe that that was taken and was done, is I just asked that our civics standards, our civics statute be incorporated into the standards so teachers aren't cross-referencing to various places, that it's all complete. This is what needs to be taught, and they understand that. And I thought that we had plenty of examples myself. And I guess I did see a few looks of alarm from staff who have taught in small rural schools that they would never call teachers on the carpet for bringing up historical figures. There was like a little look of alarm. I'm in rural schools, that's all I have in my district. And the idea that administrators in rural areas are narrow-minded and bigoted is abhorrent. And that's why I got some looks from rural teachers and administrators. So I appreciate everyone's work on this, and this item is going to move forward for a action item in September. If board members continue to have concerns, please continue to address those to the staff members. Any other discussion? All right, Chair Maggie Douglas will report on behalf of the Rules and Regulations Committee meeting.
All right.
Not yet. We have action items.
Almost there. Okay. The Rules and Regulations Committee reports on the August 6, 2026 meeting of the committee. Members present were Chair Maggie Douglas, Vice Chair Liz Renner, and Vice Chair Kirk Penner, and Elizabeth Tegmeyer. Committee members reviewed the report on rules. Committee members reviewed revisions to Rule 6, regulations and standards for uniform sharing of student data, records, and information. The public hearing was held on July 27, 2026. The committee recommends approval. Committee members reviewed revisions to Rule 59, regulations for school health and safety. The public hearing was held on July 22, 2026. The committee recommends approval. NDE staff provided information on revisions to Rule 10, regulations and procedures for the accreditation of schools. NDE staff provided information on revisions to Rule 19, regulations regarding school enrollment. NDE staff provided information on revisions to Rule 24, certificate endorsements. NDE staff provided information on revisions to Rule 27, professional practices criteria. NDE staff provided information on revisions to Rule 55, rules of practice and procedure for due process hearings in special education contested cases. NDE staff provided information on revisions to Rule 91, regulations governing driver qualifications and operational procedures for pupil transportation vehicles. NDE staff provided information on revisions to Rule 92, regulations governing the minimum equipment standards and safety inspection criteria for pupil transportation vehicles. This concludes the Rules and Regulations Committee report. Maggie Douglas, Chair.
Are there any questions on the Rules and Regulations Committee report?
Yeah, President Tegmeyer, the rules report listed on Spark is not the correct rules report. It's from June.
Thank you for bringing that to our attention. I know staff will get that fixed. All right. Yes, question or comment? You're on the Rules Committee.
Yeah, I'll just say, Kristen, to you, regarding the report, we got the updated report in committee. And the good news is that I think it's one of the first times we've been fully caught up on rules that are with the Attorney General, with the governor. So our backlog is actually in a really good place right now. Just, it was kind of nice to see that. So just sharing that for general information.
Right, yeah, so all of the rules that we had been working on are approved and effective right now, and that's a really, that's never actually happened since in my time on the board, that everything has been through even for the governor's approval. So that's kind of cool, except that now we're opening up new rules. I mean, we're not starting new ones, but we're just going back and opening some of our rules up again, so. Is there a motion on item 7.4.b?
Yes, I move to adopt the proposed revisions to Rule 6.
Second.
It is moved and seconded to adopt the proposed revisions to Rule 6. Is there any discussion on this motion?
Yes.
Okay, Lisa has
Is that
some.
okay?
Yep.
I guess since I'm not on the committee, and I know that this one is an item that is pretty important statewide or even nationwide, to be honest. I'm just wondering if there was any discussion on it or if there's any specificity. I did not, I'm going to admit, I did not watch the hearing on it.
So we actually had no input, no public input at the hearing.
Okay.
And I'll just give you a little background. So when this first, when they first opened up the public input draft, which is the first draft, I heard a little chatter through my IT director husband that some of these IT directors were concerned because their schools handle student data differently, and they were concerned. And I was like, okay, well, you've got to get them to contact our staff and talk to our staff and send email, do something. And what really happened is our new IT director, Chris Washing, worked so closely with these technology directors that we had no input after that, because he changed it so it adheres and aligns with what the school districts are doing. There was no objection, there were no concerns. And so it was like, whoa, okay, this is amazing how carefully he worked to make sure their concerns were addressed.
Thank you, Chris, for your work
for.
Thank you.
Yeah, Liz, you want to add some more? You're in that
Well,
meeting?
and just that it's a rule, I think he said it hadn't been updated since like 2014. And so there were just a lot of modernizing language things. You can see what a techie I am, modernizing language things. But it was in deep need of some updating. So to get there without any objections is really impressive.
Yeah. So, all right. So the motion is to adopt the proposed revisions to Rule 6. Would the recording secretary please call the roll?
Neary,
Yes.
Tegmeyer,
Yes.
Renner,
Yes.
Christensen,
Yes.
Penner,
Yes.
Schoenhoff,
Yes.
Douglas,
Yes.
Jones.
Yes.
8 yes.
The affirmative has it, and the motion to adopt the proposed revisions to Rule 6 is adopted. Is there a motion on item 7.4.c?
Yes. I move to adopt the proposed revisions to Rule 59.
Second.
It is moved and seconded to adopt the proposed revisions to Rule 59. Is there any discussion on the motion? So the biggest change in this is when a student would have an allergic reaction and need the EpiPen, it's like slam that into their leg or, and inject it. And our revisions really allow it to be administered in any form, which includes also an inhalation method, which obviously children would, frankly, I would much prefer also than having a needle slammed into my leg. So that was really, it's not a huge change for those of you who aren't on rules, but it actually is a much friendlier change to our students. So, any other discussion on this item? Okay, the motion is to adopt the proposed revisions to Rule 59. Would the recording secretary please call the roll?
Penner,
Yes.
Douglas,
Yes.
Jones,
Yes.
Schoenhoff,
Yes.
Tegmeyer,
Yes.
Renner,
Yes.
Neary,
Yes.
Christensen.
Yes.
8 yes.
The affirmative has it, and the motion to adopt the proposed revisions to Rule 59 is adopted. The next items on the agenda, items 9.1 through 9.4, are information items and written reports for the board. Agenda item 10, this section of the agenda is intended for board members to offer informal observations of the work of the state board. Board members may make brief announcements about attendance at future events for the purpose of informing other board members. No business or motions or suggested actions of the board may be offered at this point in the agenda, nor should board members engage in substantive discussion about other agenda items or introduce new agenda items. Does anyone have any? Yeah, Maggie.
In Kearney for Admin Days, it was really cool just to learn more about different programs that are pushing literacy across the state and how it's not just the department, it's also the university systems and schools working within themselves. But also, I had the opportunity to talk with some OPS employees about the work they're doing towards their moonshot goal, and I walked away very encouraged. I heard about intentional strategies like talk, read, talk, write, student discussion circles, weekly team meetings to monitor student progress and adjust interventions, and all staff in buildings, including nursing, custodial, and nutritional services, are working together to support literacy throughout the day in every classroom and non-classroom setting. What struck me most was the shared commitment. It was very clear to me that OPS is putting in the work every day in every class to help students succeed, and I just thought that was important to share. Thank you.
Thank you, Maggie. Anyone else? Okay, thank you to those who attended in person and who tuned into the broadcast. The next meetings of the State Board of Education are scheduled for September 3rd and 4th, 2026 in Lincoln, Nebraska. The August 7th, 2026 State Board meeting is adjourned.